today I want to talk about hypocrisy, and more specifically, hypocrisy when it comes to politicians. And the reason why is because I think throughout our history, it's been pretty apparent that there's been a ton of hypocrisy from our elected leaders. I mean, if you think about any president that, at least in my memory, you can recall, they have made promises, and although some of them have fallen through, they generally accomplish one or two things that are good for the people, and they sell us out the rest of the way down the river. But I don't think there's ever been an instance that I can remember where an administration has basically completely spit in the faces of all of its citizens, quite like the current regime. And the reason why I wanted to cover this is because there have been multiple instances where this has been true, but I think none more glaringly than Trump and claiming all the way up to the election that he was going to be the president of peace. And so what I want to do is I want to take a look at those promises and then call out some of the other ones where he has completely sold the American people down the river. But look at the broader statements that he made during his election campaign and where we currently are. And again, I think that is no more better personified than being the pro-peace president and then launching a war of choice against Iran. So let's get into the video and then I'll provide my thoughts on top of it. Hi there, pardon the interruption. I just wanted to make a real quick ask that if you are watching my content and you appreciate it, if you could please drop me a subscription. As you can see, through the life of my channel, 95% of the people that watch my content are not subscribed. So if you are watching and you find yourself enjoying the content, I would ask that you drop a subscription. Just, again, a really quick PSA, it would mean a lot to me. It really does help my channel grow, and it allows me to make this something that I can do for a living. So just wanted to take a real quick interruption, and I'll return you back to my video. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy.
Turning now to hypocrisy, something very near and dear to my heart these days, looking back a little bit on what did all these people say who are currently in power about war with Iran whenever they had a chance to make their pitch to the American people. So we've supercut a few of the people who are currently in power and some of the things that they said in the past compared to what you see on your screens today. So without much more, let's take a listen.
And I also know the cost on the American people. You know, the trillions of dollars that we've spent since 9/11 alone on waging these wasteful regime change wars, how those wars have undermined our national security and how they have strengthened terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So when we talk about a potential war with Iran, which is looking like we are walking very dangerously down that path, what I think is important for the American people to know is that a war with Iran would make the war in Iraq look like a cakewalk. The devastation and the cost would be far greater than anything we've ever experienced before.
What a prescient point, Tulsi. This is probably one of the people that I despise the most because she literally built up, even in her primary, even in like everything. And I think part of the reason why she is doing it is because she has been outed of the Democratic Party. Basically, they want nothing to do with her anymore. So this is kind of like her last grasp. But she has been, like, she was in the military. She has constantly spoken out against the evils. I mean, literally, just listen to what she said there. The Iran war is going to be worse, way worse than Iraq is. Iran is way more capable. We shouldn't be in any of these wars in the Middle East to begin with. You're in a position of power. And you basically, like, I looked at her page today and there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing called out about anything going on with Iran. She put out some stupid thing, like, I think maybe a couple of weeks ago, where it's like about her family and blah, blah, blah. Like, what are you doing? Well, what, like, these people are not principled at all, and it just exposes them for the scumbags that they truly are. And like, she is one of the worst offenders, because this is literally, you're in a position of power. And this is my biggest issue with all of them, is that you all have been in position, you've been put in positions of power. And the reason why, because I didn't vote for Trump or Kamala Harris, I voted third party. But the reason why in my videos I was calling out that Trump was going to be the more beneficial person to win is because of all of these people that they were in positions of power around him. And I did not believe, because I thought it was, you would think that this was something that was their core, this is so important to them, they will not back down because this is who they have been for years. But no, they just completely sell out. And because they're so afraid of, oh no, I won't be able to have this basically layup, easy job where, basically you're just a figurehead that does nothing and gets paid tons of money. And you're probably going to get these, cushy office jobs when you get out of these positions. Well, no, now they're just going to go along to get along, and they're going to completely just abandon all of their morals and the things that they have stood up for years. So it's so infuriating to me, all of these people who, again, you're exposing that you have absolutely no morals, you're completely morally corrupt, and I hope that no one will ever want to hear from you ever again. And again, these people are disgusting to me, all of them.
Our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran, right? It would be a huge distraction of resources. It would be massively expensive to our country. And again, I'm not saying we stick ourselves into the Middle East and start a war here, but like we recognize, okay, Israelis, Gulf Arab states don't like Iran. So let the Israelis and the Gulf Arab states provide the counterbalance to Iran. America doesn't have to constantly police every region of the world. We should empower people to police their own regions of the world, right? Yeah. And one, we would save a lot of money. Two, we'd save a lot of focus. But unfortunately, I think Harris, she's got this weird thing where I actually think she kind of likes war. Maybe she feels like a tough guy about it. Yeah. I don't know why it is. And they seem to be sort of sleepwalking us into a war with Iran. It's like the dumbest of all possible worlds.
Sleepwalking. So then what are you guys doing? You're actually walking us into a war with Iran. Actually, you didn't even walk us into a war with Iran. You kind of just jumped in with both feet. You guys are completely idiotic. I absolutely do not understand. Like, again, this is all anti-war messaging. And the thing I will say about him, though, is that you kind of hoped, right? Because there was like hillbilly elegy and he came from nothing, but then you understand that, oh no, he actually was propped up by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is in the Epstein files, and then, oh, by the way, also Peter Thiel is Palantir, basically, so doing mass surveillance and basically ushering in global digital currency and digital identities, digital ID cards, all these sorts of basically trying to oppress all of the American citizens. And so when you see that, you look back and you go, oh, I guess this was all a facade in the first place. And he basically is just a plant from the deep state that is going to basically usher in a surveillance state on the average American, because basically, F you, again, like what he has said on, it's just directly at odds. But again, can you really be that upset about it when you understand who actually funded him? Like, follow the money, right? That's the biggest thing, is follow the money and look who has basically made, because yeah, he's not a good guy. Anyone who I think is aligned with Palantir necessarily hates the average American and looks down upon us. Because why else would you usher in some sort of security state and surveillance state using a company like Palantir and being backed by a company like Palantir?
I've been a recovering neocon for 6 years now. Like, the foolishness with which we ricocheted around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest, when really we just overturned the table and created something worse in almost every single scenario, has led to almost, I mean, the hubris of the Pentagon is that they want to now tell other countries how to do counterinsurgency based on what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, are you kidding me? So you really have learned nothing. Okay, nothing. So you're right. The trust there that our political leaders or our generals would have our best interests in mind is totally broken. It's totally broken.
Oh, Pete, what a beautiful idiot you are. And that's kind of how I view it. I think this, in this instance, right, because Tulsi, you look at it and you say that's just survival. She's basically hanging on by her fingernails. She did try and speak up, and then she got beat over the head, and then she just fell in line. I think J.D. Vance is cold and calculated, and he's just, a carnival barker that, he presents well, but really he's a snake. But Pete, I think, it's interesting because all three have been uniquely different. In my opinion, I think Pete is just the most evident manifestation of absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is some useful idiot that at the time, this was convenient messaging that he could put out there and he could get a spotlight on him and gain attention. This is the Sean Ryan show that he's on here, I think, by the background. That's what it looks like. So, he gets a high profile. He wants to get put in office. And so he's going along with the messaging. And he may have actually believed it at this point in time. But then he gets put in a very prominent position. And then he gets, oh yeah, I'm high on my own supply. I'm going to change it to the president of war because I'm such a badass and I'm so cool. And then I'm going to do the regime change in Venezuela, and we did the strike and we didn't take a single casualty and we're so powerful. And then he gets high on his own supply, and then he thinks he can go into Iran and get it through unscathed, and it's going to be the exact same as Venezuela. I think it is it's very easy to see that it's just absolute power corrupts absolutely. He's completely high on his own supply and is a religious zealot. His entire arm, there's all sorts of religious tattoos, and if you have not been paying attention, he basically pulled in all the generals and he has told them that this is a religiously based war with Iran. And what they want to do is they want to basically create the third temple and usher in the second coming and basically bring in the Antichrist. And I know that sounds insane and I don't want to dive too deeply into it, but look it up. That's literally, he pulled in all the generals, and there has been reporting of leaks of people in the United States Army coming out, because then the generals disseminate it down to their forces, where people have been coming out saying that, yeah, their generals or Pete Hegseth or whoever have been telling them that this is a holy war, which is patently insane. So literally, they're trying to usher in the second coming. They're trying to usher in the Antichrist by destroying the Temple on the Mount and then erecting a third temple there. Again, it sounds insane, but literally these are the newest developments about what has come out with Pete Hegseth. Because, and there was a decent amount of reporting about this, he called in all the generals and had a secretive meeting. And that is where I think he told them all to then go out and tell all their people that, yes, as a Christian nation, we have to support Israel because those who bless Israel are going to receive the blessings of the Lord, and we're going to usher in his second coming and blah, blah, whatever. This is why I hate religion, is because these people have absolute brain rot. It makes absolutely no sense, but this is how they justify just completely insane things and actions like going to war with Iran. And like, I don't even know. It completely hurts my brain. I cannot stand it. And once again, go look it up for yourself. I don't want to go deeper into it, but it's completely insane. And again, I just kind of view him as an idiot, though. I think he's an evangelical idiot. So, like, I kind of give him a pass, not really, because he still is, again, I think he has been completely corrupted, And I think the power has went to his head, and I think he needs to be removed from the office. Like, he is not exceptional at all. And he's been put in there because he's a yes man. And then he wants to RP as the Department of War. Like, come on, man.
I will tell you, you're not going to have a war with me, and you're not going to have a third world war with me. That I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to turn into the Joker.
Pete's off the wagon again with this neocon relapse.
He's out of recovery. He needs to start back into the 12. He needs to make amends first, right? Isn't that part of the 12 steps?
A lot of amends to make.
There's a lot of amends that are currently to make. But I think the most potent one, I mean, Tulsi, Donald Trump, obviously. I mean, Trump actually, I would not defend. He said various different things to many people at all time. But JD, Pete, JD and Tulsi, to the most extent, are the ones who are like, yeah, you're full of shit. And that is the one which, honestly, is so galling. Because, okay, I can say this in Tulsi's case. How many times have we interviewed this woman?
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Really quick, just as an interjection there, right? Because he's, who's the worst? And, like, I agree with that. But I think, yeah, my observation of Trump, because I did the other three, but his, I think, was escape legal. So he will say anything to escape legal attack, the legal attack that was happening on him beforehand. So I think that's what it was, is it's just a slimy snake operator that he is going to do whatever he can, say whatever he can, so that he gets back into office. And then he literally, I think, has just been for sale ever since. Like, if you look at all of the actions that he has taken, like the most recent one, which I flipped out over this recently, but he put in, because he was talking about, the no trans in sports and this kind of stuff, he put in a provision, because there were 5 points on it, in something that he has introduced, he wants to introduce his legislation. The 5th point on it was young adults cannot transition, which I think all of his supporters, full stop. That's what we want to hear. But then he put in an additional thing, and this was on his Truth Social. You can go look it up. Unless they have the consent of their parent. So he is saying that it should still be a possibility for young adults to transition, to go through transgender surgeries. Like, am I taking crazy pills here? It's completely insane. Why would you put that in there? You literally were campaigning against that. That was one of the things that you were hugely campaigning against. You had the entire Maha movement. You then say, oh no, we're going to prevent immunity for glyphosate, which is literally poisoning people. They're putting Roundup on your food, and no, we're going to give that company total immunity. They can't be sued. It's fine. Like, literally, all these companies are just paying him, and he's selling us out completely. So that's what I think my diagnosis of what Trump is he is just flagrantly lied to all of us. He's went back on literally every single promise he has made us, including being the anti-war president, the anti-war party, and he's sold us down the river. And I don't know how anyone can stick up for him at all. He's now sold out our children by saying that they can do trans. And the problem with that is, because you might say, oh, well, if it's the parents' consent and that's what the children truly want. That doesn't make any sense, because if you know anything about the trans, like basically children, becoming trans, just look at where it's happening. It's literally like LA and New York. So it's these super liberal areas where like one parent has 3 trans children. That doesn't even make sense. Like, statistically speaking, that doesn't make sense. That's not possible. So what that means is that these parents are forcing this ideology on their children because they're reinforcing them, telling them that this is what a good thing it is, and they're literally mutilating their children. So of course the parent's going to go along with it. You're literally allowing for the mutilation of U.S. children by just insanely retarded parents, by just insanely brain rot parents that are trying to score social points with their insane leftist ideology. And so when you're seeing this sort of a thing happen, like, how can you enable this? How do you not know that this is exactly the genesis of how this is happening in the first place? And by putting that line in there, you're green lighting the continued mutilation of people who end up regretting it later. Just proven fact. Look it up. Because what happens is these children are looking for their parents' approval, and you can get them to do whatever you want. If you are a sick fuck, you can get your children to go along and buy into this ideology by providing them positive reinforcement to say that's a good thing and praising them for going along with this ideology. And I can't. It is so infuriating to me. And to go back on one of your core promises as the presidential candidate, just fuck off. Fuck completely off. And poisoning us with glyphosate as well. That's just a tack on to how upset I am about this whole thing. I can't. And I'm sorry I redlined my mic, but it is just so infuriating to see these kinds of things happen, and you literally just ruin. Kids are so able to be influenced, and you literally are ruining their entire lives because you are trying to gain social points in your group, and it's so disgusting to me. Like, it's so upsetting as a father, and I get upset about it because it truly, you just think about those poor children and what they're going to have to face for the rest of their lives. We don't even allow them to vote. Why would we allow them to make a decision that will literally destroy their entire lives, destroy their future? Like, I have met people who got tattoos when they were legally able to that regretted them a few years later. So I don't know how anyone can justify this. And just because I know it sounds insane that he said this, but yeah, Save America Act. No transgender mutilation surgery for children without the express written approval of the parents. Again, why did you even include that without the express written approval? Like, what are we doing here? This is insane. Completely insane.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Sat across from the desk, looked in the eyes. What did she always talk about? Being a medic in Iraq, right? Mm-hmm. She talked about brothers and sisters. I believed it. It was, maybe I'm super naive. I believed it when I looked her in the eyes and she would talk about that. She took a lot of shit. She went to Syria to meet with Assad. It was like, basically got forced out of Congress, the whole donor machine. Hillary called her a traitor. Like, she suffered politically. And so to go from that, and then, by the way, can we put E2 up on the screen here, where she literally was selling T-shirts saying no war with Iran. When we first started rising, I'd go around the country. I would meet a lot of Tulsi people, right? She spoke to a lot of folks whenever it came to the no war, anti-war position. She went on Rogan, the no war with Iran t-shirt. Like, this was a real constituency. And I remember meeting a lot of these people across the country. So now to have her as the director of national.
You know what the funny thing about this is? I wonder if Joe Rogan ever has her on again after this. Because he used to all the time. And I guess it's not the election season, so he's not really talking about it. But he did praise her a lot. And he would say, oh yeah, she's a veteran, she's anti-war, she's a woman of color, she's all these things that the Democratic Party wants, but they don't want her because she's anti-war. But I wonder if he ever gives her any sort of endorsement again after this sort of a thing. Because he will not he is kind of above these kinds of things where he will call people out and attack them. But you can tell when he decides to part ways with people and he's done with them because they've either wronged him or they've proven him wrong, they've made him look silly. Like, in this instance, I think she makes him look silly with now she's on war with Iran, now she, like, these sorts of things. I wonder if he, again, ever praises her again, ever has her on again, any of these sorts of things. Because, yeah, I think if I was him, he would probably be pretty pissed off at her. So that'll be interesting to see in the future if he ever gives her any sort of endorsement again.
Intelligence in the Situation Room while the war with Iran launches. It's unbelievable. Then let's take the vice president. I mean, did you hear what he said there about it would not be in our interest? I think he believed, I mean, I used to think he believed that. Who the hell knows now? But secondary was that whole thing about Kamala who likes, that's literally how Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are acting right now. Yeah. Pete Hegseth is literally acting like a movie character whenever he's like, we are winning and well, screw you media for reporting on the deaths of American soldiers. Donald Trump is like, Iran is 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. Clearly he loves the theater of limited military operations, which are now spiraling out of control. It's like, oh my God. I mean, look, again, you know, you could say I told you so, and that's fair, certainly at this point. But I don't know. I mean, are we just never supposed to believe any politician? Like, I can tell you this.
And exactly what I had said in my initial statement is the problem with it is that in this example, it is that much more flagrant, that much more flagrantly obvious that they just completely lied, flat out lied to our faces. Again, when it's little lies like, oh, we're going to try and do this and okay, we weren't able to accomplish it, or we're going to, you know, whatever. Like if there's little lies or it's omissions or it's whatever. I feel like that is a vast difference from what is happening here, where it is, again, flagrantly in your face. It's not, yeah, we're going to do this and it fell by the wayside. It's not, you know, little promises that just, it doesn't really affect us. Yeah, it would have been nice if you did that. Yeah, it would have helped the American people, but whatever. But this is, and I don't think it's an understatement to say, something that could completely threaten U.S. dominance. Like, you're completely willing to collapse the entire U.S. dominance in the global order to go and do a war on behalf of Israel. Like, there's no other reason why anyone would want to go into this war. And that is my biggest issue with it, is because it's so flagrant and in our face. It's a 180 from what you were saying you would never do in your campaign promises. And so when you're seeing that happen, how can you ever trust unless you literally watch? Like, the only person in Congress that I think is not a complete scumbag and that you can trust is basically Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie and any of the other Republicans who are voting against all of these going into war, voting against the Epstein files, like any of these people, those are the only ones that you can trust. Because Democrats, it's all in their interest. So like even the ones who have been pretty good on it, right? Like a Ro Khanna, they usually like to, call out Ro Khanna here. I think even him is still questionable, because you look at it and you just go, yeah, but it's kind of in alignment with the way his party wants to go, and they want to cause harm to the Republicans. But like the Republicans, any Republican that is basically going against the Republican Party, those are the only ones that you can trust. Because now, again, I think this sets the precedent of, look, he's going to get away with it. He can blatantly lie to our faces and completely get away with it. He's not going to be impeached. He's not going to be subpoenaed. He's not going to be, taken out of office, kicked out of office. Like, you can lie to the Americans' faces, and what recourse do we have? What are we actually going to do? Obviously nothing. So that is the thing, is that sets a very, very dangerous precedent moving forward. Because now how can you trust what anyone says? And it's very concerning to me.
In Tulsi's case, in JD's case, much more limited extent on Pete. I had been told by multiple people that he actually was scarred by his experiences with Iraq and Afghanistan and rethought a lot of stuff on Ukraine. I said, okay, I believe you. Don't believe it anymore. But in a lot of these cases, and it's not just the public officials' names that you would know, I'm talking about deputies and other people all over the National Security Council. I've met these people for years. We were at conferences and other things where Iran war was like anathema. That was like the one thing we're not doing this. And so then to not only see them in power, but working behind the scenes to execute this, you're like, what the fuck? Is this, so it was just all a joke. The whole thing was a joke. Or it's just a cult. Trump is in charge, and there's a lot of egg on a lot of face, mine included. I got to tell you, it has been one of the most serially radicalized things that has ever happened to me, because I've read many times in books about politicians being liars and narcissists and all this. Okay, and so what do you do? You have it. I've lived here for a long time. I had an appropriate level of skepticism. A lot of the people who were working in this White House who said that they were against war with Iran took immense professional hits for being against a lot of the so-called neocon consensus. So what do you conclude by that? You're like, okay, you have a track record, you must believe it. Yeah. And then they come into power, and it's the opposite. It's so crazy. I'll tell you that. On a personal level and on a policy level, God, it's shocking. Like, I never, ever, 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 ever thought I would be sitting here watching this and watching the.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. Like, that's why I say it is so shocking. Because, it's literally, like he said, all politicians, you kind of have it baked in that they're kind of full of BS, and you just kind of pick the one that you think is going to do the best for you. But again, this sets the precedent that it's a complete lie to our faces. You literally can no longer trust, because and again, if they're seen to be able to get away with it and they don't have to pay any consequences, what's going to stop them from doing this again in the future? What's to stop them from coming out with all this, hey, here's the populist messaging, we're going to tell you everything that you want, and then we're going to do absolutely nothing. Because they've seen that they can get away with it. And it is so concerning. And I think anyone who believed with and went along with Trump for the stated reason, especially of anti-war, that's a huge one. Because you want to believe that, hey, we have a candidate that will stand up to the military-industrial complex. That is I think that's a huge one. I think Maha's a huge one. I think there were a few different things. Trans is a huge one. DEI is a huge one. There's a lot of things. Immigration is a huge one. There's a lot of things that I think people have voted or had voted for Trump for in this last election. And now you get spit in your face. Because he has not done any of those things in the way that I think the voters, the people who voted for him, had envisioned that he would do. And so when you are seeing that happen, yeah, of course, I get it, right? I didn't even vote for him, and I feel betrayed on behalf of everyone that voted for him. Because, again, my argument was, he was probably the better candidate because of who he surrounded himself by, and all of those people have completely sold us down the river. So I don't know how any of these people are remotely defensible. It is, I think, the only things that have been remotely done, which who knows, it may even reverse if Trump gets a payoff by big pharma, was the vaccine schedule where they chilled it out a little bit. They stretched it out. They didn't, I think there were some positive things that were done there. But again, that could totally reverse tomorrow if pharma goes and makes a $10 million donation to Trump through the Trump coin. So you can't even take that seriously. It could get overturned tomorrow. So yeah, it's just completely disgusting. And again, it is completely offensive and is very troubling.
These people defend it.
Yeah. This is not to do, and I told you so.
No, it's
not
fine.
The point.
Listen,
that's not the point. But
it's fair. No, I deserve it. I'm being serious. We deserve it. We deserve egg on our face. If we sat on the camera and we said, we don't think this is going to happen, and it happens, we got to eat shit. That's how the world works. I'm sorry. And for all the people who want to move past it, we can't move past it. We have to sit, we have to grapple with reality. The people we defended and the people we thought were going to come into power, who were going to do something, did not do it, okay? Period. End of story. And that is genuinely the greatest professional disappointment of my entire life.
I think the reason why
This is why I like this show and respect Sagar especially, is that he's it's the thing that I say, ideological consistency. Of he looks at it and he's not just a sycophant to Trump and I love everything Trump does and stick your head in the sand and I don't want to admit that I'm wrong. Is that he says, look, this goes against everything that I voted for him for. And the thing is about it is, do I even think what is happening now would have been any different from what would have happened if Kamala Harris was in office? Honestly, I don't think so. I think we would have been in the exact same, if not actually a worse place. But, I mean, it's still insane. Like, I don't know. And you can't even say that. Like, I say that, I think that is probably true. And the reason why is because I don't think she stood for anything. So I think she would have gotten completely walked over as much as Trump has been probably compromised into doing these actions like the attacks on Iran, like, you know, basically capitulating to all these different groups that have paid him off. I think she would have done it anyway for different reasons, but I think the outcomes would have been probably very much the same or similar or whatever. So, but the thing is that I respect that he's able to say, this isn't what I thought it was going to be at all. I am completely, as he said, radicalized against it. And I understand why. It's not good. It is disgusting. It just shows how detached these elites are, that they think that they can just, and they can. I mean, of course they think they can get away with it because they are getting away with it. No one is holding him to account. No one is holding any of these people to account. And like, I don't know. It's infuriating to me, and it further radicalizes me to the point of why are we even voting? Because it's the uniparty at the end of the day. And I truly do think it would have been the same outcome, either candidate. So, yeah, it's not good. I'll say that.
You know, didn't buy into the peace candidate and all that stuff is because I know Trump is a liar, and many politicians are. Trump does take it to an extreme degree, let's say. But I looked at the track record from the first term where they were very hawkish towards Iran. You had the maximum, he pulls out of the Iranian nuclear deal. You have the maximum pressure campaign. You have the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, which in and of itself risked a war with Iran. And so that was the track record I looked at.
Yeah.
And then the other piece that I looked at is who he was getting money from, right? And since Mary Madelson was, you know.
And the thing I'll say on the track record first is, there could have been, and this is just my most generous interpretation, because this is kind of actually how I was thinking about it, is if he was almost assassinated, then, if it wasn't just a false flag, then what would have happened is it could have been that could have radicalized Trump against the deep state, against Israel, against whoever he thought that this assassin was basically hired by or created by or whatever. So if you think that is the case, and you go, he basically says, screw you guys, screw the deep state, screw whoever, and then I am going to then take a hard populist turn, and I'm going to sell out all these people, and then I'm going to do what is right for average Americans. You know, I'm going to actually do all of these actions. I'm going to try and do what's right for them because I've been betrayed by my own class of people. That's the most generous interpretation. So I think that is where you can give some sort of justification, because that's kind of where my mind was at with it. I wasn't 100% certain. It could have just been a crazy lunatic, but like the guy had no background. He was, in interactions with FBI. He was most likely, right? Because there's like a phone that was tied to an FBI, someone who basically was traveling back and forth between there and the FBI and whatever. So there were a lot of things that made the assassination look fishy. And so if he had the same intel that other people were able to get, well, then he may have turned on the deep state. So again, just presenting one theory or hypothesis for how you could have come to the conclusion that he may have actually believed something different, and how he could have taken a realistic populist turn.
One of the largest donors, $100 million into his campaign, the combination of the track record and the money, and the fact that, listen,
and the money is a good point on her behalf, because yes, Miriam Adelson coming in and doing the donation. Same thing with Elon, right? He got to do his entire Doge thing, which actually ended up, he just cutted all the regulators who were regulating him. But yeah, you just allowed these people to basically have whatever ideological, whatever they wanted. Okay, you pay me, you come in and you can do whatever you want. So then yes, on that, she's 100% correct. Yeah, you can't look at that and not think that she was going to have whatever she wanted, which is essentially an ideological war in the Middle East. And so that one, yeah, the writing was kind of on the wall there.
I don't have a personal relationship with J.D. Vance, so I just see him as a cynical political operator. All of these, Tulsi had already changed her stripes on any number of things, so I didn't take her seriously either. RFK Jr., are you kidding me? What a joke. Like, obviously, he shape-shifted a million times. And so the reason I'm saying this is just for the future for all of us as we evaluate, okay, candidates that we like and what they're saying versus what they're likely to do. The things to look at are what's the track record and where does the money come from? Because at the end of the day, those are going to be the things. And then you layer the Epstein files on top. That's another factor that I don't think I fully processed, how potent that would be in terms of apparently getting us to this place. So that was how I was ultimately looking at it going in. But I have tons of empathy for people, especially like regular people who don't follow this stuff day in and day out, who were watching the Biden-Harris ticket commit genocide in Gaza.
Liz Cheney.
Kamala's campaigning with Liz Cheney. She, went out of her way to do her whole, most lethal military ever, and I, went after transnational gangs or whatever. Like, she tried to do the whole, I'm hawkish too, posturing. And, and you've got all this peace candidate rhetoric coming from the Trump campaign.
And that's exactly why I say I don't think we would be in a vastly different place than where we are today. Because, yeah, I truly think that, exactly as she was saying, they were just funding and enabling Bibi to do whatever he wanted. And so, of course, this was the logical endpoint of they were going to go in anyway. And even if how we went in, right, where the U.S. jumped in immediately, even if that was not the situation, that does not mean that Bibi Netanyahu did not see the writing on the wall that America is turning against him, and this is his last and only chance to jump into a war with Iran. And I think that's why we're in it now, is because, and it still would have played, again, it would not have happened in the same way, but he would have, in my opinion, still made an attack on Iran, and then the U.S. would have eventually been dragged in anyway. So, would it have made that much of a difference? I don't think so. I think the outcome would have been exactly the same. And that's my argument for it. Because you can look at it and go, well, why would you? It's not like we were supplying them with offensive weapons. Again, when you throw yourself into a war and you know that the U.S. is going to come to your aid, functionally, you're going to end up in the same place. And again, that's why I say I don't think that it would have been any better under Kamala Harris. Again, that's my opinion. I could be totally incorrect, but that's why I say that.
looking, back at knowing the track record and knowing where the money was coming from, and Trump, as to your point, Sagar, like he was never consistent about what he was going to do.
Can I explain this?
Yeah.
Because this is important. So we just talked about Soleimani and all this.
Yeah.
Here was the experiment, and this is what I believed. I always thought Trump was a retard. I'm gonna be honest, okay? Literal retard. But what did I come away from the first Trump administration? The people around Trump, the staff, made the decision, right? Basically, so you had John Bolton, Jim Mattis, Jim Kelly, John Kelly, all these people. Okay, so the promise was, and this was the project was we're going to replace those people so we have better policy. And the idea is Trump is basically like this archetype who gives shits about the ballroom and not much else, and then the staff will run the show. That's what I thought was going to happen based on the first term, okay? And so what did I know? I knew the people working in the, so yeah, money and all of that. Look, I always knew the Israel thing. You can go back and check what I said. I literally said, if you're pro-Israel, you should vote for Trump. And if you're pro-Palestine, you should not vote for Trump. Go back and look at what I said, October of 2024.
I remember that.
We were all very clear-eyed, but we had a belief in two things: Ukraine and definitely Iran. And the reason why was that the new cash people, the type of people, the vice president included, led a project in the United States Senate and behind the scenes for years specifically against Ukraine and Iran. Yes, I was there. I remember it. And so there you go. That's where the belief came from. Well, you did this, this, and this. You took a lot of hits professionally over the years, even picked fights, organized this entire group and staff of people who all told us over the years that you were going to do something, and then you came into office, and now you're doing the opposite, right? And look, let's be also fair in this regard. Trump is a big boy, and maybe he just wanted to do it. Maybe these people were against it. I don't know. But at the very least, it's not just that you couldn't stop it, but then you have these people who are out there defending it. And the truth is that not only have we watched how people are so untethered from what they previously said in the past, but that they're willing to literally go and openly humiliate themselves on television. So do we have like the Stephen Miller? I think you were about to toss that. Do you want to?
Yeah.
And that's the exact point that I was making is, you look at who he surrounded himself with, and Crystal might not believe that that's who they were, but I think there were some things where you literally saw, like RFK, he completely, he's been fighting against these things actually in court, and there were a lot of things that, his the whole health thing, and Tulsi, she literally just, she kind of shifted in the wind on a few things, but she seemed ideologically consistent about this one thing, which was we should be non-interventionalist. So you look at the people who surrounded him, and exactly to Sagar's point, it didn't really seem like Trump cared all that much. Now, for whatever reason, probably because people are paying him off, he seems to actually care. And I think it's not that he cares, it's that the people who are giving him money care. And so now he's having to care and then force these people to do whatever he says. And so that's really the explanation that I can come to. The only thing that makes sense to me.
I mean, and this is too, I think Stephen Miller is actually an important character, we'll just call it, in all of this. But I mean, he was as clear as he could be. Here, the first one, he's responding to Cenk Uygur. He says, I don't know how I can be more clear. Trump will end and prevent war in the Middle East. He wants peace. Harris and her neocon cabinet want war and more war. Another one, Kamala will send your sons to war. Another one, if young men don't want to be drafted to fight in Kamala's and Cheney's Third World War, they better get out and vote for Trump. Another one, Kamala's top military advisor is Liz Cheney. If Kamala wins, Liz and Dick are running foreign policy and they will invade the Middle East, okay? Now, I think another thing, Stephen Miller is extremely influential. Extremely influential. They call him the prime minister internally. We got a glimpse early on in those signal conversations when they're debating about the Yemen strike.
And real quick, those didn't age particularly well. Like literally, I think they need to print those all out and put them in front of him, and I want to see how he answers those. I mean, they should do it for all of them, but the hypocrisy is just insane for all of these people. And it's completely disgusting.
Strikes. And Stephen Miller comes in and says, the boss wants this, so we're doing it. And it's end of story. No one says a word or a peep. There are no more objections raised. That's it. It's a done deal. And Stephen Miller is a racist who absolutely hates Muslims. And I think that is a part of the story here, internally of what's going on. You have not only him, but we're going to talk with Emily about Pete Hegseth, who's like wrote a whole book about how he's itching to do Crusades 2.0 because he wants American Christian warriors to fight against the Muslim hordes. And so that is an important strain of ideology in this administration as well.
And that's basically what I was saying is, it's evangelical Christian who's insane. And he just is completely off the rails. I don't know if it's from PTSD. I don't know if it's absolute power corrupting absolutely. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. He's basically given free reign. But yeah, the dude's just completely off the deep end. Like, he needs to be reined in. He needs to be sent out to pasture. I don't know what, like, it's just, he's completely deranged. He's off the rails. Like, I don't know what else to say about him. And so, yeah, when you're framing this as a holy war now, like, isn't there supposed to be some sort of separation of church and state? Like, what are we doing here? If I was in the military, which I absolutely would not be, because I'm not going to die for these essentially demons that are running our government. But if I was, and that was being said to me, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm done. Nope. I am not fighting a holy war. I'm not interested in that. Like, this isn't the 16th century. Like, I'm not going through the Crusades. This is not happening. I'm not interested. So yes, when you're seeing this sort of thing, I don't even know. It's just wild to me. I do not get it. And part of me almost wants this whole biblical end times thing to happen and Israel actually get all the land and build the temple and blah, 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 whatever. Just so that when nothing happens, we can just, okay, can we get rid of all of them now? Can we just bomb them out of existence, wipe out the entire place? Because it was a lie. What did we do all of this for? There is absolutely nothing. Like, these are the most evil people for no reason other than their own self-interest. And like I said, they were lying to us. None of this was real. It's all just RP. You're believing, you're role-playing. You're insane. So yeah, I kind of want to see it actually happen and all come to fruition, just so that we can tell them once and for all to shut up, and we never want to hear from any of you again. And just prove them all wrong, destroy all religion for all time. That would be great.
Well, but there's no doubt that they lied to the American people. We did focus groups with the AOC Trump voters, and I was surprised. I thought Gaza was important, but I was surprised at how many of them brought up war and peace, and not just Gaza. They genuinely believed some of the rhetoric coming from Stephen Miller. And, it is fair for people who are looking at this to have some belief. And you've got all of these figures within Trump world saying absolutely not, no more war with Iran. We got to learn the mistakes from the past, blah, 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 to put some credence in that, even as you know that, Trump is a liar and blah, blah, blah. So it is a disgusting betrayal.
And the other thing to think about that too is when they were all having their confirmations, when they're being voted on, right? A lot of them were, they might not get through because exactly they were positioned as being in direct conflict with the neocons, that like all these pro-war or whatever, anti-vax or whatever it was, whoever each one of them had their own. Like Tulsi was almost going to be, it was going to be very difficult to get confirmed. RFK was going to be real difficult to get confirmed. Pete Hegseth was going to be real difficult to be confirmed. Like all these people, it was going to be challenging to get them into the offices. And so as an outsider, you look at that and you go, oh yeah, that's because maybe they actually will do something good for the American people. But obviously that's not how it's played out. And, fool me once, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, when you were seeing that, it is completely understandable why you would have thought that, oh yeah, these people are actually going to be good on the promises that they made before they were appointed into their positions of power.
It's not that it was not predictable. Many people did predict it, saw it coming, etc. But that is true, and it is also true that it is an extraordinary betrayal of the American people and what many people genuinely thought that they were voting for with this administration.
Yeah, exactly. And look, put E7 up there on the screen. They said they were the peace ticket. Now, you could say, okay, yeah, you shouldn't have believed it. I just gave you the whole thought process. I'm never going to say, oh, they're super anti-war. Never believed that. I said, okay, there are two things which are actually winnable are Iran and Ukraine. Those are the two things. I was like, I think we can get that based on Trump and everybody else who was coming into the administration. There were some early signs, the Steve Witkoff stuff, remember, the ceasefire with Israel. That was good. You're like, oh, okay. And then we start to get to where we are. It was pretty obvious by Midnight Hammer that they were totally in control. And from what I've heard, Tulsi, I mean, I'll give her a little bit of credit. She spoke up against a 12-day war. From what I know, guess what? She got nuked, basically. Do not invite to Venezuela.
She has to resign,
and now she's crawling her way back in.
She has to resign because her whole brand, she literally sold T-shirts that said no war with
Iran. She's got nothing left now. She's done. All right, her only chance is to continue to suck up to Trump.
She needs, I mean, if she wants to preserve any shred of dignity, soul, whatever, you would have to resign. But apparently that shred of dignity has already been sold.
If anything, she's gone all in. I hope she got a lot of money from those T-shirts because when the Democrats are in power and this Fulton County stuff is happening, I hope you have a lot of money to.
Yeah, and that's exactly to the point I was making of she's just trying to hold on because she has already had a taste of being completely thrown out and not being in politics at all. And so what she's trying to do is, okay, this is the math that I think she is doing. Is she says, okay, the only way that I can still stay sort of in power at all is by, okay, I have to grasp on to the Trump. And she's already been kind of kicked out. Like you said, do not invite for the Venezuela attack operation, whatever you want to call it. So she already got kicked out of the Democrats because she was like an up and rising star, but then she didn't play ball with them. So she basically got completely kicked out. Then she got a second chance, if you will, with the Trump because she got brought in as, the anti-war and, okay, you're going to be put into the cabinet here. So there's maybe some sort of, okay, I have my foot back in the door. I can be back in politics. I have the opportunity here. But then again, it completely, what she's being asked to do flies completely in the face of her brand. And I think it is very telling that now she's completely going along with it. She's made no statement to stand up against the war in Iran. And so she's going to be completely out either way. I think she doesn't completely understand that. And so she's going to continue on this trajectory that she's on. But yeah, it makes everyone like the Democratic Party already hated you to begin with. So when they get power, yeah, exactly as Sagar's saying, she's gonna get subpoenaed. It's not gonna be good. And then the Republicans probably didn't like you to begin with. And then also, by the way, because you did actually take a moral, stance once, well then Trump basically kicked you to the curb. So you've already lost favor with this group. You should have just stayed on that trajectory because now, yes, you have lost all credibility with anyone. And I don't know. It's completely disgusting. She literally, I said, her and JD Vance, I'm probably the most disgusted with, and Trump, right? All three of them are pretty disgusting. But yeah, you just look at it and you go, I don't know. How can you justify it? You can't.
Survive some subpoenas. You're going to be looking at $200,000-$300,000 in legal bills from whenever that comes. So good luck to you and to the Gabbard family. But if you think also about all the others, I'll make the case, right? And this is what I always hear behind the scenes. What are they supposed to do? They can't do anything. They don't have any real power. Bullshit, in my opinion. Tulsi, you can resign. There are a lot of other people, Pete Hegseth and others. I mean, they literally said the opposite in cases. And look, to be fair, there were also clips of them floating around out there where they were very hawkish, Pete in particular. I chose not to believe it. There were many people who assured interviews and the positioning, they're like, it has changed. It's legitimately different. I mean, Stephen Miller's on television today. A Trump doctrine is not isolationism. America first does not mean America alone. We're all, our great, powerful military, Iran. To be honest, I actually think he was against some of the wars previously. I remember talking to the people who knew him. I mean, that's why it's so crazy. But what you have to do now is it's all about just pleasing Trump. And from that point, Trump has literally, in many cases, almost never inserted absolute and total control over any real foreign policy portfolio. He really was relatively blank slate, deal maker, etc. Again, that's why I thought the staff would be highly, highly influential. But clearly on Iran, he was the primary mover here. Yes. I don't think he was pushed into this. I just want to be that very clear. He was the person who made the ultimate decision. And
Well, I think he was pushed into it. Because here's the thing, is that he kind of danced around it, right? Where he kind of, let's do some negotiations. All right, I think Sagar is correct in terms of he was the one that said we have to go. But I think if you look at the totality of the actions that he took and trying to come with some sort of negotiation with them, trying to, whatever it was, I think he didn't really trying to do a quick strike and then draw back. Like, he didn't actually want to do a full-fledged war, but because of being pushed into it by Israel and Bibi Netanyahu, well, now we're in the situation that we're in now. So, yeah, that is the thing, is it completely makes sense about, he did push it from the United States, like, who made the United States go in? Trump. But did he really want to go in? I think no. But then Bibi Netanyahu and probably blackmail pushed him into having to do it. At least that's my take. So yes, he is correct if he's talking about specifically the United States and who said we need to go in. And that's why you're seeing leaks now come out against him. But yeah, at a larger scale, if you're looking at big picture and like, did he actually want to go to war? I don't think he originally wanted to, but again, was forced to by Bibi Netanyahu in Israel.
I'm still trying to figure out that story.
I think
right? I still don't know.
I feel like he also has bought into some of the like messianic hype around himself
I think you're right. Especially
surviving the
after
assassination.
Midnight Hammer 2 and Venezuela. It's like you said, I mean, he's a gambler who he's like on a hot roll on a craps table. Like, he keeps getting, but ultimately, again, if you read enough history, it's like, oh my God, stunning success, stunning success, stunning success. And you start to believe all the hype. And then boom, you slam into a brick wall and then you invade Russia, right? And what ends up happening to you? Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I think he talks about his own mortality a lot.
Yeah, lately.
He's thinking, he apparently does not believe he'll be getting into heaven, based on what he said. I would say if there is a heaven, I think that's probably a pretty accurate assessment. And he's thinking about his legacy. And so along with, some stupid arch and freaking ballroom and the drapes, the other thing that he wants to establish as his legacy is like these wars. That's what he's decided. That's his way to make his mark on the world. And so here we are. And that's a good transition to talking about some of the, I can't even call them religious undercurrents, because at this point, it's such a dominant talking point. And for me, as someone who is, I'm not a religious person, totally secular person, I don't factor in, when I'm thinking about geopolitics, that you have these fanatical religious zealots who are ideologically committed to, this end times ideology, many of whom are in high positions of power here in Israel, and also Iran is literally a theocracy.
Yeah, a very interesting consideration on the religious ideology. I did kind of want to touch on that, which is why I did include a little bit where I talked around it, where I'm talking about Pete Hegseth, because quite frankly, it's insane, and I don't understand, how did we get here, right? It's kind of crazy to think, oh yeah, there are these people who are in positions of power that are religious zealots, and how is this a justification? There should be a separation of religion and state. That's literally in the Constitution. It's not, you can't have these things coincide. So that is the thing, is I did want to touch on it a little bit. I would like to maybe dive into it in a later video a little bit deeper, but there's so many things, and I thought this was a more pressing issue to talk about. But to circle back around to one of the other last things she said was, Trump being totally enthralled with what his legacy is. This is very dark humor, but it would be kind of hilarious if his entire legacy was the downfall of the American empire. Like, you are the one, and granted, there's a lot of things that led up to it, like the military-industrial complex. Like, there are a lot of things that have been sending us down this road, like globalization. Like, there are a lot of things. But if Trump ends up being the final nail in the coffin, and he is basically written into the history books as the worst president ever, and the one that basically led to, if not the complete downfall and collapse of the American empire, at least a massive harming of America's standing in the world and U.S. dominance at large. That to me, again, it is very dark humor. It is rooting for our own downfall, but it is something where, ironically speaking, would be hilarious. Disgusting, but hilarious. But anyway, that was about all I wanted to cover. I did think it was a very interesting look at, and the reason why I wanted to cover it, it's just so blatantly obvious of them lying to our faces and doing completely the opposite in a way that I think is a departure from how politicians have essentially lied to us in the past, where it's omissions or it's letting things kind of slide, but not directly selling us on one thing and doing the complete opposite of it when they get into office. And the problem with that is it's not just one thing. It seems to be across the board, where just if anyone brings him money, he's willing to sell all of the American people down the river. And the most concerning part about that is that it sets up a very dangerous precedent, I think, for the future. Because now they can insert people and you can have all of the populist messaging and you can just completely lie to the American people's faces and at least get a turn in office. And I think that's very dangerous. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.